Marc-Andre. I'm the Ed Automation Nerd. My role consists of helping partners like you guys with anything to do with automation, efficiency, best practices, things like that. So I've had a chance to work in IT for about 20 years. I've had a chance to build a lot of the automation that you see in RMM, in Automation Manager as well. So basically, whatever I can do to help is really my role. So if you have anything that you need help with, please reach out to me directly. That I can do. I'll do what I can from there. I might direct you to somebody else, but I'll do my best at any point to help. So what I'm going to do is just quickly put my email address in the chat. There you go. And that way, if you guys have any questions for me, you're welcome to put them there and email me later. Having said that, I am joined today with Jason Murphy. He's our Central Automation Nerd. He has a wealth of experience working as a sales engineer for us. He's worked for a very large MSP here in Canada, and he's at various vendor MSP experience as well. So I'm glad to have him here. He's mostly focused on the N-Central side, but he does dabble in RMM quite a bit as well, not automation. So it's always nice to have him here. So welcome, Jason. Thank you for being here. Just as usual, your one-stop shop for Enable resources. Remember to go to the Success Center. This is success.n-able.com. This is where you can open your support cases. You can go into forums and ask questions that Jason, myself, the team, everybody can review. Your peers can review and answer, which is super fun. You can use the MSP Institute to go and watch recordings like these, previous boot camps, variety of different training courses. If you have not seen the Institute yet, I really, really urge you to take a look. It is maintained by my good buddy Aris, and it is a wealth of resources for you guys. So please make sure you take a look if you have not done so yet. Obviously not now, you're watching me, but after, go watch it. And then obviously you have the ideas page. This is one of the resources that the product management team uses to, the product team uses to submit different ideas. So if you have ideas for us, feature requests, things like that, go there and request. That's a very good place to look. All right. So once again, if it's your first office hours, what is this about, right? The office hours are a topical Q&A. This one is about automation, efficiency, best practices, patching, monitoring, you name it. We're gonna fit in there. This is really meant to help you guys engage with industry experts like Jason, myself, our new hires you guys are gonna learn about pretty soon, and a variety of different people. So this is really what we wanted to do when we created those. I started this program a year and a half ago, maybe 2 now, and it was really meant to just give you guys some help. I'd love to do it honestly every single week if there's enough attendance to justify it, but right now I think we're doing it about monthly, which is usually a good cadence. We also want to help foster an online community. The more you guys get together, the more you guys start sharing, you start working together as a group rather than working against each other, the better the MSP community becomes. So we really want to help spearhead that community mentality within this. So if you guys have automation you want to share, if you have insights to some of the answers I'm giving, put in the questions pane. I always welcome it. So obviously it's a big part of it. Now, obviously we want you guys to grow your business. We want to give you tips, tricks, best practice, and so on. Part of growing your business in a very selfish way for the company is that when you guys grow, you get more customers, you deploy more devices, and then you use more products more, we make more money, right? It's a very organic type of growth. It's a very symbiotic relationship. So we're not there to just sell you stuff. We're there to help you guys out, because the more we help you, the better you do, the more you buy. It's just organically working this way. So just keep that in mind. Like, we're here to help. We're not just here to sell, right? And that's why these nerds are there. That's why this program was put in place. And finally, obviously, we want to take any feedback we can from you guys and get ideas on suggestions on product and things like that. So those are all things that we're looking for. All right, I did mention most of those resources already, so I'm not gonna go through that again because that's boring. But I do want to touch on this. I started doing this last month, and a few people said that they liked it a lot. This is the what's new from the last month in automation in the cookbook. So in the last month, we've added policies based on your feedback, based on Empower. Oh, someone says they can't hear anything. Just for my own sanity, and somebody let me know if you guys can hear me in the questions pane, just in case it's only the one person. And I'm not talking to myself for the last 5 minutes.
You sound good, Mark.
Thank you, buddy. Yeah, Greg is saying it's fine if you will. So I think that maybe you do. Do you mind answering Rhoda Jason, just let her know, or let him know that this is my DD issue on their side? Thank you. In the meantime, like I said, new automation, we do a lot in the cookbook. Some of them are partner supplied. Thank you for that. Some of them we have built, some of them colleagues of mine build. So it's just a mix of a variety of different things. I want to go through some of the new ones. Thank you, Charles. Some of the new stuff that we've created. So one was during Empower, you guys were requesting a policy to enable RDP. We demoed and talked about disabling RDP for security reasons. And partners were asking on some computers when they build them, when they configure them, they need to enable RDP. And it's a very simple thing to do. So we decided to make a policy for it and share it in the cookbook. It's a good example. It's a good thing to take a look at. So if you want to take a look, go into Cookbook, success.enable.com, click on the Enable Cookbook button, or go to enable.com/cookbook, whichever one. Cleaning up the Windows.old, this was built at a request from Dakurai, a partner of ours. You wanted to have a way to clean up the Windows.old. After those big feature updates, this folder group gets really, really big at times, and this becomes a problem for some people. So this is a policy that we worked with him on, super basic to be honest, but it's a good example of things that you can do. So we decided to share it for everybody. So go and grab it if you need it. We looked into doing a patching after like X amount of days or minutes, have a nagging reboot prompt for the end user, like, hey buddy, can you reboot please? It's been X amount of days or months or whatever. One thing that we find is that when people don't reboot their machine for 1, 5, 10 days, we start seeing weird behaviors in Windows. And that is not a us or RMM thing. This is just a Windows thing. We've seen it where if you go typically over 5, 7 days, we start seeing weird behaviors. So it's always good to force the reboots after X amount of days. So we put that there. We also did a login check time bound. So basically that one will check if someone's logged in outside of specific hours based on a specific event ID. That was again built by request. Then we had one that was shared by a partner of ours. You wanted to disable the news and interest. So you built that script, you shared it with us, and it made its way into Cookbook. So example like that, if you guys have your own scripts you want to share with the community, please feel free, send them our way through Cookbook. But this is an example where we'll disable the news and interest that people just hate in Windows 10. Initially, it told me it was added in 21H1. It's actually in 28. It was added last year, actually, not this year. But it's okay. The policy is still valid this year. We also made a battery capacity monitoring script. We found this in Reddit, and we modified it to work into RMM and Central. So if you want to monitor your laptop batteries, it basically looks at the capacity battery in milliwatt hours. So compares that to what its current latest charge was and sees what is the life of the battery left. When the battery reaches like 75, 70%, typically it's time to replace it or the laptop. Usually you see that around a 2-year lifespan if you use it a lot. And then finally, the last 4, but really 2, are the print nightmare mitigation and the Kaseya endpoint detection tool. Those were added last week and this week, respectively. The print mitigation was a script that Microsoft, our security nerd put in place based on what Microsoft was recommending to disable the print driver access to external resources, which is so this is basically just allowing you guys to disable that access. Now Microsoft has come out with a patch as of last night. If you didn't know, please make sure you deploy that ASAP. But in the meantime, that's a good thing to use. It should probably be used on most people anyways. And then the Kaseya detection tool. Kaseya, after their attack this weekend, they published a automation script, a PowerShell script, to detect traces of the attack on endpoints. So we took that script, we modified it to work within Automation Manager, and we published it so you guys can use it as a script check. If you want to grab it, go for it. It's there, it's free. It's just something to help you guys out. A lot of people have customers that have legacy environments with Kaseya, or maybe are using Kaseya with a different company, a different tool, whatever the case is. This will allow you to monitor and find those devices and alert you if something like that happens. So it's always nice. So yeah, so good examples of stuff that we built in the last month. All right. enough of the PowerPoint. I hate spending too much time on this, so let's go into the meat of this. As you guys have questions, please make sure you put them in the questions pane, because this is a Q&A. If I'm out of questions, we're just gonna adjourn, but I like to go the whole hour. First question I have from Greg. He says, at Empower, I used a reboot prompt in Automation Manager to notify users that they must reboot after patches have been deployed. How would I implement this? So I'm gonna go in RMM and we're gonna start from there. So here's RMM. So in RMM, first of all, you would configure your patching, right? So first of all, when you do patching, you would use a policy. When you configure patching, here it is. You would have the reboot after install. If you want to keep it simple, just say reboot when the patch requires it, or always. When the patch is finishing, it will immediately do a pop-up through the notifications in Windows and say like, hey buddy, you need to reboot. And I think it's about 5 minutes or a minute after it will reboot. That is the preferred way. Now, if your customers call you yelling and says like, I don't want this, this is too aggressive, screw you, this is not nice, whatever, and they panic like that, that's okay. What we're gonna do is you would say, don't reboot through patching. So you need to know when patching is occurring. So you would say, okay, I'm doing patching every Monday at 9 a.m. Chances are by 10 a.m., 11 a.m., patches will be done. So what you would do is you would schedule the task that would come here and say reboot after patching, reboot, like that. And then there is a reboot prompt object. So very simple. You use this object. First of all, you configure your branding. If you want to use your own fancy branding, you go here. You can put your own logo. In this case, I use my mugshot for some reason, and then you can put colors. Let's say I want to use a nice mix of blue and let's say, actually, you know what? I like the magenta. So these two, and then I'm gonna go, hey buddy, your machine needs to be rebooted because reasons. So please reboot, like that. Now, if I don't, it is a rich text editor. I can make this bold. I can make this bigger. You know, oh, actually, I have to select something like this, and then I can choose what I want. And then I can say how long are they allowed to delay it for, and I can choose to give you the option to allow it to completely decline it or not. In my case, I'm going to allow decline because I don't want to do it on my machine and force reboot myself, because that would be bad during this webinar. So here's what it looks like. Hey buddy, your machine needs to be rebooted. Again, it shows the size, the font, and the color and everything. And I can see reboot in maybe an hour or 2 hours or tomorrow, whatever. Or remind me in an hour, because right now I'm busy, I don't have time for this. You can choose whichever option you prefer. Now you can see restart right now, postpone it, or cancel. So once you've done, I'm gonna do cancel, obviously. Once you've done this policy, you would save it locally, just file save. And then within RMM, what you would do is you would go to settings, you go to script manager right here. And within your script manager, you would do new to upload the policy. So when you're here, you're gonna go and say, okay, reboot prompt after patching, and say, schedule this after patches are scheduled for, so the machines get restarted. And then usage notes would be, I don't know, nothing special. And then this would be an automated task on Windows, because this only works on Windows at the moment for automation policies. Then I would browse to my file, I would save it, and it would show here in this list. At this point, the policy is there, it's uploaded, it's usable. All you really need to do is go to your tasks, add it, and schedule it. Now you can do it, add a task, pick it, do next, and do it one by one. Obviously, that's very tedious. You can also right-click on the client and say add a task right here. Or you could go into your templates here and manage templates, make a template with different things that you need and apply a template in bulk. Or you could make it into your default template to say, after whatever, do this. That's also an option. Now, one of my preferred thing is you can also add right before a uptime, for example. So instead of just doing it right after the patches, which is also a good idea, by the way, but you could also say if uptime is greater than whatever, like actually, let me remove those for now. What is my uptime? My uptime is in seconds. Yeah, total days, let's say, would be 0.1. So then I can say if my uptime in days, oh no, not days, total days, sorry. Let's use total days is greater than, let's say 7. So if I'm not rebooting my machine in more than 7 days, let's say I run this daily, then I would say reboot prompt and say your machine's been online for a very long time, it has not been rebooted, blah, 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 can you please reboot? So it's a bit of a variation on what you're asking, Greg, but personally, I kind of prefer that. Doing a reboot every 7 days, I find, or even 5 or 4 days, to be honest, is a good way to keep the environment lean and clean. People don't reboot as often as they used to. A lot of times people think that they do, but they don't. What they do is they put their machine to sleep at night because easier. They just slap their lid and they go do something else. Machine goes to sleep, but it's not rebooted. Or even if you do reboot sometimes in Windows, sometimes it's not going to be a full reboot. And I'm doing air quotes. You can't see it, but I'm making air quotes. Because what's going to happen is that you're going to have fast boot on or quick start, whatever they call it now. And that silly feature will just do a partial reboot of the machine, and that's not great. So obviously something to think about as well. And I think I beat that horse to death. So I think that's good for that question. Thank you for that. If you have any other questions for me, let me know. I don't have many questions, guys. You guys are very, very quiet right now. Please make sure you guys give me questions if you guys want to keep this going. In the meantime, I have a couple. The first one is about the print nightmare I showed earlier. Can you explain a little bit about that? Yeah, I can do that for sure. So if we go to the cookbook, there you go. We added this example policy. I think it was added on Friday or Saturday. It was added very recently. There's one for mitigation and one for removal. The removal basically undoes the permission restriction. This one actually does it. So we try to publish both sides always so that when you don't need it anymore, you can just run the removal to clean it up. Print Nightmare, it's a vulnerability into the Sprint spooler that was found recently, and it seems to go all the way back to Windows 7 and Windows 2008 R2. Like this goes way, way back. And this allows to remotely execute code, which is obviously a bad thing. So Microsoft came out within a few days with a hot fix for it, which is great. But in the meantime, we made this this automation policy. So if I download a copy of it and I open it up, where did it go? Where did it go? Too many folders. Print. There you go. The mitigation, pretty simple stuff. It makes an ACL to restrict the permission, and it sets it. So it's pretty much all that. So if you guys have this issue or you're concerned and you have not done the update yet or cannot do it yet, this might be a very good thing to apply to some of your end users. So what we try to do is when these big vulnerabilities come out, we try to be pretty proactive to create automation. Sometimes partners do it and send it to us. Sometimes we do it. Sometimes colleagues of ours do it. Whatever the case is, we try to do them as quickly as we possibly can. So yeah, next one would be how would I upgrade a VMware host? Can we do this from automation or something else? Okay. Long and short is kind of, not really. There is objects in Automation Manager for VMware. So for example, I could connect to my host. I can get versions. I can get different information about it. I can set the maintenance mode. Where did I put that? There it is. Enable maintenance mode. So what you would do is you would use these objects to connect to the device. This would have to be run on a server that's local to the ESX host. And what you would do is when you run this, it would connect to the ESX, it would enable maintenance mode, and then you would have that ready. Now, when you do that, the next step would typically be to run the command to update. Now, the commands to update, you need to do through SSH. So very simple, same idea. You put in the IP user password, similar to this here, IP user password. This is going to open up an SSH tunnel to the device. Now you may need to do sudo. If you do, you can use this and go sudo sudash. And then after that, you would say send commands, and then you would do whatever the command to update is, ESXCLI something, I can remember. And then this would allow you to connect your ESX, set it to maintenance, do the update, and then you would probably want to restart the host. I think there is a restart host somewhere. Did I put that in there? Yeah, restart host. And then you would use that object like this. And that would basically link it back up. You would say restart myself, and then it would basically look at that. So this example seems a little daunting. Honestly, it's very simple. It simply connects your ESX through Power CLI. So you need to have Power CLI on the executing device. Then it opens up SSH tunnel, and then it does the commands to do the update, and then finally it reboots the server. Now, before you do the reboot, you may want to get it out of maintenance, and there is an object for that somewhere. There it is, like this. So basically, you set it to maintenance, you do the update, you take it out of maintenance, and then you just do that. So yeah, it's quite literally as simple as that. If that is what you want to do, it's just a matter of filling in the blanks wherever you need. Just a couple of things to note: when you use the ESX object, you need to link the session ID that this generates. This is your security token that we pass over and over again. So that's right here, just like that. You need to do the same thing for these two. And then for the SSH object, similarly, when you open up the SSH session, it makes a token for that session ID. You need to link that here and here. For that to work. As long as you do these, everything's going to work fine. You would link the IP user password to inputs, and then you're good to go. So that would be a very good example of something to do. All right. So yeah, so that is another example of something that you can build pretty easily with automation once you get familiar with automation. It might be a little more advanced than what you typically see, but it's pretty easy still. All right. Next question from Greg. Can I monitor that a process is running and trigger an alert if not? Yeah, you can. If you're in RMM and I go into a device of some sort, I go to checks and I say add a check 24/7. You can monitor a service, which is fine. But if you want to just monitor the actual process itself, what you would need to do is come here and say, is process running? And then the process would be, let's say, Notepad. I don't know if it's notepad.exe or notepad. Let's see. It's false. Do I have notepad running? Nope, I don't even have that. So let's open notepad and then run this. Yeah, it is. So it is just called notepad. So when you put whatever the process name is, it just tells you here what to look for. Pretty easy stuff. I see is process running. And then if you want to turn any automation into a check, all you need to do is just take the if block, whatever the output of your process is, your condition, it's your answer. And say if that is equal to false, then I would say failed policy. There you go. Now, in this case, I would recommend that you link that to an input. So we're going to input that here and say in is process running, and then process name to monitor, and then we'll do notepad, for example, as a default. Now, I always like to have a very clear display because that's what's going to show in RMM. And I always put a default value so you know what to expect to type here. Then we're going to link that here and boom. So when I run this, I just say, okay. Now you can see it says it is running, so it doesn't fail. I'm going to close Notepad. And if I close Notepad and rerun this, now it should go into a failed state. Now in your case, you said alert if it's not running. So what you would do is say if it's not equal to false, so if it is equal to true, rerun this. So if Notepad is not running, everything's okay, and it's okay. So this seems to be the policy you're looking for. I'm going to do save this and put it in the cookbook. So is process running RMM. Oops. Like that. All right, save that somewhere under, sorry, got too many folders. There you go. I'll save that, and then what you would do if you want to use that, once again, once I give you a copy, Greg, if you want to email me, I'll send you a copy. In the meantime, I'll put it in the cookbook for everybody else. Go to new, and then I'll say is process running, whatever. I'm just doing that very quickly to show you, so I'm not bothering to fill all the blanks, but that's what it would be. Gonna go browse, and then is process running, and okay. So now that I did that, I uploaded it to my RMM. It's right here. Is process running? It is a script check, and okay. So now that I did that, I can come here, add a check, 24/7 script. Look for my script right here. Go next. Now, because I made it into an input parameter, I can choose the process name. I can put Explorer, I could put whatever I want, and then just say OK. And now this is going to be added to that machine. If Notepad is running, this would go into a failed state. Now it is offline right now. Yeah, it is. Is it? No, I think it's online. So this is basically going to allow me to monitor that, and you're good to go. So this gives you pretty much, I think, what you asked for, Greg. Hopefully this helps. If you want to clarify something on this, just let me know, put in questions, but I think this should be a good one. And like I said, I'll put in the cookbook for everybody else. Thank you. All right, so Rubens, is it possible to make an app that will download all files from an FTP server? yes and no, just because I do have a, hold on, did I, no, that's fine. Okay, so there is a download file from FTP, which is basically the remote file. But in this case, you'd have to list all files first and then basically loop through and download. So yes, you can. I've never tried it though, but it should be just fine. What you would do is you would say, okay, connect your FTP, like here's your host username and password, you link that to inputs. Then you would say, okay, for each file that you find in that folder, and then what you would do, we'll put that in here. I would say the remote file is linked to the remote object like that. And then I would just have to loop through. So it would just have to get all the files, like 5, 10, 20 files, whatever they are, and then loop through and just do that. So if I was to quickly just add the inputs to create that for you, so in IP address of the FTP server, so 1111, whatever, and then in username for the FTP, root, because root, and then in password, and then password for the FTP. That is a password field. You'll notice I cannot type anything here. It is because it is forcing it to be typed in. Then I'm gonna say, okay, so in remote directory path, I'm gonna go / for now, and then in local path to download, and then local path to download to. So I'm gonna go c/temp. Now, the ctemp may or may not exist, so what we're going to do is add a little layer of complexity / better to basically detect if that is the case. So I'm going to show you that in just a second once I'm done doing all the links. The links are repetitive, so I'm not going to go crazy over it, but just chain link, pick what you want, link it. And same thing here. So input IP address, input username, input password, and then save as, oh, actually I have to do something for this because I don't know what the files are. Oh, okay, hold on. Shoot. Okay, hold on. Replace text and file. Yeah, that should work. Actually, string find and replace. Yeah, that's better. So basically, if we say, okay, look into the remote object, basically the file, look for the path / and replace the / with a dash, I guess. So it's gonna make a little bit of a mess, but not too bad at least. And then what we're gonna do is do a format string, and then we're gonna say take our path, local path. Did I? Nope, I linked the wrong one. Remote path. And yeah, that makes more sense. And then local path, and then we're gonna say take the modified string. So we're gonna say, okay, so our ctemp folder / the file. Yeah, that works. Okay, and then finally save that. Okay. The only thing that we're missing right now is if ctemp or whatever location you chose does not exist. So I'm gonna just say folder exists right here. Okay. I know I'm going pretty quick, guys. I apologize. I just want to quickly just get this all created, and I'm going to explain everything. Because I don't want to. It's very, very hard to do both well at the same time. So I'd rather just quickly run through and then explain it. Let's create folder. Go. All right. So what we're doing here is we're saying if the folder does not exist, so if it's equal to false, then create folder. So this path. Okay. So all right. So what we do. When you run the policy, it's going to ask you for the IP address, username, password, the directory, and the local place to save. So Rubens, that would do all that. Then you get all the files that are on that FTP server in that directory. Then, does my ctemp or whatever location you chose exist? If it does not, create it. Then, for each file that you found in that folder, get the slashes out because that's going to freak out the local save and put a dash. Then, do a format string, so we're saying ctemp / the file dot whatever, and then download that file to that local location, and that's going to loop over itself over and over again until it's done saving all the files. Now I'm going to quickly just change that, so download all files from FTP to folder. Yeah, like that. Okay, save that. All right, I'll put that as well in the cookbook. So Ruben, you can grab it there, but send me an email if you want to get it before. I'll just send you a copy. But this is another good example, guys, from things that you can do in automation that I could have PowerShelled it, I could have Googled it, found a script, modified it, and try to make it work if you have experience with PowerShell. If you don't, this took me 5 minutes to build, just talking through it, so it's not so bad. And it's a lot easier because you don't have to worry about all the syntax, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, Ruben, send me an email. I'll gladly send it to you, and I'll be easier. Very, very good question. I love it. I love these kind of questions that make me think through things like that I never know what I'm going to get asked, so it's super fun. Next one, I'm genuinely not sure what to answer. It says, can I create an automation check to see if a screen or not is on through HDMI?
I've actually looked into this.
Yeah, have you? I have no answer.
So you kind of can. The problem is that in WMI, because that's the only place I figured out how to do it, is that whether you're using HDMI or DisplayPort or what have you, it's the same output. So there's no good way to say, oh, hey, you're an HDMI versus, VGA or something like that. So it just is what it is, kind of in how Windows understands what high-end display you're using. And so between DisplayPort and HDMI, they kind of look the same.
That was my understanding. I wasn't 100% sure. I noticed that video controller, the WMI space that I've used before for something else, but I wasn't sure if it would work for this. So I'm glad you clarified that. Rhoda, maybe if you can clarify the need for us, maybe we can try to do something a little more in depth, but I think Jason's answer might stand on this. I don't have any other magical way, but I would really like to understand the need. If, what would be the difference for the end user if using HDMI, VGA, DisplayPort, or an adapter of some sort, whatever the case is. I'd like to understand what the need is so I can maybe better answer it. Thank you, though, Jason. I'm glad you added that because I had no idea. All right. Next question from Martin. It is there a limit to the number of daily tasks that should be configured on a workstation before performance is affected? Or is it better to group them into a single script or so on? Honestly, first of all, there's no hard limit, Martin, to your question. There's no hard limit, but sometimes if you do one task, the customer may feel it. If you do 15 tasks, they may not. So something like what I'm showing right now, downloading files from an FTP, or like I did earlier, is process running. Those are incredibly lightweight. You could have like 20 or 30 or 50 of those, and you would really not feel much of anything. Where you start to see a performance hit of some kind is going to be when you do tasks that are heavy. If you do a disk cleanup, if you do a file search across the whole C drive. I've had people come here before. Let me show you an example of what I'm talking about. Like this file search. Sorry, I'm going off memory here. Yeah, so if I do file search and I say C/ and say star.pst and say recurse, and I run this is going to take a while. This will be intensive. The end user will likely feel it. And I've seen people do this as a check. So the check runs every few minutes. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog. My wife just came home and the dog is happy. So anyways, the file search like this would be noticeable if you do like what I'm doing now. That's a horrible idea. It's just super heavy. But I've seen people that say, I have a need for this. Let's just whatever, screw you, we're doing it, and that's fine. But things like that will have a bigger impact, whereas just one of this they may notice, versus if I do the like earlier is process running like this, simply this, I could literally do 20 of those at the same time and you wouldn't even know it's there. It's really dependent on what the task does. I've seen some where I create a desktop shortcut and I've done like 4 or 5 like almost at the same time, no impact whatsoever. It's just most tasks are very low profile. They're not going to impact anything. I've seen people like here, for example, I have a ton of checks on my machine. I can right click on the device and see run all checks. And honestly, if I look at my, oh, that's a different machine, oh, whatever. If I run on my device and right click and see run, this would actually be barely noticeable in most cases. So I don't have a good, is there a limit? Not really, to be honest. The system is usually good enough to be okay. It's just, like I said, it's just going to be whatever task you do. I've had people just scroll through an entire hard drive or go through and run a very heavy scan of some kind, use the disk cleanup tools from Windows that are sometimes very heavy, do a scan disk, things like that. Those are going to be noticeable in a lot more cases. In my case, I probably wouldn't notice it as much because I have an NVMe drive, it's very performant, and I have like 6 cores of 12 threads, but most users might feel it, I wouldn't. So I have to give you a vague answer just because there's no good unified one-size-fits-all type of answer for this, but they're a very good question though. So that's good. Okay, Rhoda. So Rhoda says, based on the HDMI thing, they have PCs that they use for advertising, so they wanted to monitor the screens if they're on or off. So maybe do it through the video controller like I was talking about. So yeah. The problem you're going to have is, I think, threefold. One is that sometimes the screen will go into sleep mode for pick a reason. The user made a mistake, someone locked the screen up, whatever, and the screen is still turned on, you wouldn't know. Two is that sometimes when the screen is turned off, it still connects and gives you information. So you still, Windows will still see you as connected. I have 5 monitors in my case on my laptop. If I flip the lid up on my laptop, I go down to 4, it actually, the screen is physically removed from the laptop, it doesn't see it. But one of my screens that I have, I don't know why, if I literally turn it off, it still gets detected by Windows, it still sees it there, even though it's turned off. Only if I unplug it from the power or the HDMI, then it doesn't see it anymore. So you may or may not get the result you want based on that. So it's very very tricky. Yeah, you're saying nobody can turn off the screen if it's used in the mall. I get it. In that case, we would have to take a look a little further, but I don't have a good answer right this second, just because I know what would be involved in building this, and I just don't have a good answer for you. I don't mind revisiting it. If you want to send me an email, maybe Jason, if you want to put your email, one of us can take a look for Rhoda and see what we can build. I know I've seen there's WMI classes, like you said, that we can do it with. Maybe we can just at least get some basic info for you.
Yeah, and I'm actually interested in this because I've actually done monitoring of these like advertising displays in bathrooms and malls and everything else. So there's usually a better way. Not necessarily kind of, because you're right. I mean, if Windows has any kind of, if it sees electrical current in the port, whether it's actually displaying anything or not, it's like 1 or 0, on or off, right? Yeah. So it's just, it's not a good way to do it.
Yeah. So Rhoda, Jason's gonna reach out to you. I took your email down, and you guys can take a quick look, see if there's anything you can do. I know you're in South Africa, so we'll make sure to talk to you in the morning. Good question. Next one, and I think it's the last one I have at this point, is there any way to traverse an unknown number of subfolders? I want to traverse a folder tree and copy all the files out. Oh, for the FTP. No, at the moment, the objects I have is just that, but I know in PowerShell there are scripts that exist. So PowerShell download all files from FTP to local. I know it exists because I've seen it for something else. I'm just very, very quickly gonna take a look. I like the ringing, yeah, this and that. Yeah, because I know I've seen it and it just loops over itself. I just, yeah, that's it. So then you would just say load the subdirectory and download. Yeah, they exist. Greg, if you want to reach out to me, we can just very quickly get you one of those scripts, put in an automation policy, and you're good to go. But yeah, so Greg's question is more around downloading a whole set of subfolders. And I know because I've looked at it before and I quickly Googled it on my other screen, I know I've seen those scripts, whatever. I've seen those scripts before where you're able to just have a function like this and then just say download everything, and it loops through every line in that folder, and it just keeps going through and going through, and then it downloads each file locally. So I've seen this before. And it's just that. Oh, I thought you meant that the FTP thing. Okay, so you're saying on your local system, so you want to copy all the files out of every folder into a single folder. Oh, no, I don't have an object for that. Okay, I'm glad you clarified. So what you mean is come here and say copy file like this. This one is going to be, copying this. This one will be copying a folder. They will copy a subfolders as well, like this one, but it doesn't copy it into a single. It just, yeah. So if you're looking for a specific file like the PST I said earlier, you could do find, startup PST everywhere. It gives you a list, then you just do for each, and then you copy them all to a place. You can totally do that. Like I said, I don't like that. I don't recommend that, but you can. And that would be an option. But alternatively, yeah, I don't have any other suggestions for that. But I've seen a lot of these scripts cause a lot of issues. So yeah. But yeah, so if you're thinking to do it for, yeah, if you're trying to do like a variety of files, the file search is the only way I can think of. But like I said, it's going to get heavy very quickly. So I would not go there for sure. All right, so what else we got? I think that's it so far, guys. I'm not seeing any other questions. Just the one, I guess. I was kind of avoiding a little bit around the Kaseya attack and scripting. What did we recommend? I did mention that at the beginning if you joined late. The same thing with the Print Nightmare. We did publish a monitoring script for RMM with the Kaseya detection tool. So I updated this yesterday morning. And what it does, it's an AMP that will detect, it runs basically the piece from Kaseya. Kaseya published a script. I took that script, modified it, and I made it into an AMP. And essentially what it does is that it detects if Kaseya is installed, and if it is, it checks for suspicious certificate. Again, that is their code. Then it checks for suspicious files based on a pattern. There it is, the property hash. And then it also checks for evidence of encryption, and then it reports back. So I modified it to actually report back properly. And then if I was to run this on my machine, you can see here it's running and it's telling you that, okay, I didn't find anything. I don't have Kaseya installed because I'm not a Kaseya customer, obviously. But then this is something in my case is fine. In your case, if you have a customer base that may or may not have this, that might be a script you want to use. So thank you for that. But like I said, if you have questions for me, I do want to keep going for another 15, 20 minutes. So I'll let you guys think. If you have anything for me, if not, I'm going to do the 3, 2, 1, and we'll adjourn, guys. Just last call if you have any questions for me. Otherwise, thank you very, very much for joining, for spending your time with me today. I always like I said, I like this. It's one of my favorite webinar because I never know what you're going to ask. I always like to help. Clearly, you guys can tell, hopefully. So this is really a fun one. This is a monthly thing. So next month, we're doing it again. Your invite should roll over and give you another one for next month. Please make sure you join us again and come and ask questions. Just watch what other people do. Whatever you want to get out of this, it's just a very, very fun time all around. So with that, I think that's it, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.